It's Tuesday, October 31. In the headlines, assessments still being done after 5.6 magnitude earthquake. In business news, the Guardsman collaborates with international firm to offer AI-powered security. Regionally, Barbados proposed as a logistical hub. Internationally, a deadline for undocumented migrants to leave Pakistan expires by the end of Tuesday. And in sports, Waterhouse defeat Montego Bay United 3-0. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The National Disaster Response Committee will be meeting today to discuss the aftermath of the earthquake that shook Jamaica on Monday.
To look at what took place today and to make plans in going forward. And the country will be updated based on the progress of the information that is being gathered.
The earthquake, which lasted approximately 30 seconds, had its epicenter 10 kilometers south of Buff Bay in Portland and was felt in eastern Jamaica and several other parishes. The heavy shaking caused people to flee buildings. Commissioner of the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Stuart Beckford, says his team has been working with municipal authorities while conducting assessments of buildings across the island.
Most of what we have been doing since the tremor was felt is to conduct assessment of buildings, whether they are schools, other government institutions, ministries, agencies and departments. And of course, we'll have some calls from the private sector.
Minister of Science, Energy, Telecommunication and Transport, Darrell Vaz, reported some load shedding after the earthquake by the Jamaica Public Service.
The recent report that I have up to half an hour ago is that all areas have been restored. And if there's anyone who does not have, I would like you to please reach out to the JPS immediately so that we can try and see what is happening. But the report that I have is that all areas across Jamaica electricity has been restored.
He says there had been no abnormalities reported from the transport sector. Meanwhile, Minister with responsibility for water, Senator Matthew Samuda, reported no incidents in that sector. However, that story might change in the coming days.
As the public should be aware, we have over 750 pump stations. We are going through the process of checking each one to ensure there hasn't been any major damage. We have completed the checks of the Mona Reservoir and its associated systems. There is no damage there. We are going through the process related to the Yalas pipeline and indeed the Hermitage Dam, which we know is aged infrastructure. We do expect that in the coming days we will see a few pipe breaks, especially where you have older ductile iron pipes because of the amount of seismic activity that we would have seen today.
The ministers were speaking at a press briefing that was held on Monday. Jamaicans are being warned that more tremors are possible following the magnitude 5.6 quake on Monday. The earthquake unit at the University of the West Indies, Mona, has reported that it recorded at least 23 aftershocks. Professor Simon Mitchell, former head of the earthquake unit and professor of sedimentary geology at the UWI, says the earthquake was about 8 times as strong as the tremors felt earlier in the year. Professor Mitchell told RJR that there is uncertainty regarding what is happening along the fault line between Haiti and Jamaica, which could see an even bigger earthquake. The University of Technology Jamaica Western Campus A are winners of this year's 11th staging of the Northern Caribbean University Invitational Debate Series. The Western Campus's victory charge was led by Enroy Mudiri and Jadon Hewitt, which saw them improving on their third place finish in 2022 by leapfrogging 3 other teams. These were UTech Jamaica Pepin Campus, Northern Caribbean University C, and the University of the West Georgia B. Hewitt and Maduri each received cash totaling $20,000, medals, career building services in resume development, and professional photography, among other prizes. Members of the team from UTech Jamaica Papine campus placed second, while representatives of third-placed NCUC copped $10,000 each, along with other prizes. Other entrants in this year's competition were Moneague College and the University of the West Indies Mona Western Jamaica campus. The debating format adopted was the British parliamentary style, with the teams acting as opening and closing government and opposition representatives at various intervals and being given 15 minutes to prepare. The annual debate features local and international schools that vie for top honors and prizes in one exhilarating day of matches. The competition's next staging is scheduled for October 21, 2024. Prostate cancer is responsible for more deaths for Jamaican men than any other cancer. It is the second leading cancer-related cause of death in men. Beginning at age 40, you should speak with your doctor about screening for prostate cancer. Urologist and senior lecturer at the University of the West Indies, Dr. Belinda F. Morrison-Bilgen, will tell us more about the disease in this edition of Living Healthy.
It's referred to as a malignancy of the prostate gland. The prostate gland is a small gland that is located just below the urinary bladder and right behind the pubic bone, which is the lowest central bone in the pelvis. It's also located right in front of the rectum. The prostate's role really is what we call an accessory gland in reproduction. So when men have sex and ejaculate and semen comes out, about 20% of that semen is coming from the prostate gland. And the gland contains substances that are important for antibacterial properties, as well as to promote and preserve good sperm health.
Symptoms for prostate cancer are not always apparent, which is why early detection is key.
So let me be clear, the urinary symptoms I'm going to discuss are not unique to prostate cancer. They may be seen in other urological conditions. However, yes, in prostate cancer, they can present with either difficulty urinating, a poor urinary flow, urinary stream. The man will tell you that when he goes to the bathroom, he has to wait a long time for the urine to come. He may even see blood in his urine. He may have urinary retention where he wants to pass urine and nothing at all will come, or increased urinary frequency. So that's it involves the entire prostate gland. And the reason they'll get these symptoms is because the prostate itself as an organ surrounds the urinary passage called the urethra, at least a portion of it. So if it becomes invaded with cancer, it can compress that urinary passage and create a difficulty and outflow obstruction, if you will. But as it gets progressively worse and it starts to spread outside the prostate, then there are more devastating symptoms. So one is the patient could present with renal failure, kidney failure, because the tubes that drain urine from the kidneys to the bladder may be compressed externally. And this generally happens when there is involvement of enlarged lymph nodes in the pelvis. Next place it can spread to are the bones in the lower back. So the man may have back pain. Now, it is not true to say that every man who has back pain has prostate cancer that has spread, but definitely prostate cancer that has spread has a predilection of going to the bones in the lower back. Sometimes it's not just pain that they have. It may erode the bone. It may compress the spinal cord, lead to spinal cord compression and the sequelae of such, which may be paraplegia.
Since it is that sometimes when at the beginning, it's not as apparent in terms of symptoms, at what age do we start regular testing of our prostate so that we can avoid this from getting more dangerous?
So testing early or early detection, also called screening, is dependent on certain factors, and really these are risk factors. So anyone who is Black or has a family history of prostate cancer are considered high risk, and it's generally recommended that these persons start at age 40. Age 40. Persons who are of low or intermediate risk, so they're not Black or they have not had a demonstrated a family history of prostate cancer, then the benefits are for screening at a much later age, at about age 55. There is a cutoff, and that's usually 69, 70. And the recommended screening interval is every year. The screening process involves doing two things. It involves a physical examination, which is the insertion of a finger in the rectum. It's called a digital rectal exam, and this is where we feel the prostate. And we're really feeling for any nodularity or hard areas within the prostate. You can have prostate cancer and the prostate feels perfectly normal. However, you may also have prostate cancer and you feel hard nodules there, and that makes you very suspicious. But what's even more sensitive is a blood test called a prostate-specific antigen, or PSA for short. And so both are combined, and if any is abnormal, then you move on to do a diagnostic test. Because the screening test don't diagnose prostate cancer, it only gives you a hint that it may be there. The diagnostic test really is getting a biopsy of the prostate, and that's done under local anesthesia. So small pieces of the prostate are pinched from the gland and it's sent to a pathologist. The pathologist returns a result to us to tell us whether there's cancer there or not.
The Meteorological Service of Jamaica is reporting a broad area of low pressure with a low chance of a tropical cyclone development over the next 24 hours. It says this area of low pressure is expected to gradually move northwards into the vicinity of Jamaica and generate unstable weather conditions throughout this period. Fishers and other marine interests should exercise caution as sea conditions will deteriorate in the vicinity of showers, thunderstorms, and gusty winds. The Meteorological Service will continue to monitor this system. In today's forecast, this afternoon expect cloudy conditions with periods of thunderstorms across most parishes and especially eastern and central parishes. Tonight, thunder showers are forecast mainly across northern and southeastern parishes. Otherwise, the conditions forecast will be cloudy. Maximum temperature expected for Kingston today, 30 degrees Celsius, and maximum temperature expected for Montego Bay today, 32 degrees Celsius. Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
Local security services company Guardsman Group has joined forces with international tech company Intellisense to introduce state-of-the-art security technology to Jamaica under the Guardsman Metaverse brand. One of the key highlights of this collaboration is said to be the incorporation of AI technology into existing security systems to offer more precision in security. In addition, the recently launched Guardsman Cyber Intelligence Limited offers AI-powered cyber solutions to combat the growing cyber threats that Jamaican businesses face today. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Monday, October 30, the US dollar sold for an average of $156.07. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $114.63. The pound sterling traded for $187.14, and the euro sold for $167.38. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by over 1,512 points. The junior market index declined by over 60 points. The combined market index declined by over 1,952 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index closed at over 300,000. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 109 stocks, of which 34 advanced, 52 declined, and 23 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, Access Financial Services Limited, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Cargo Handlers Limited. Trading firm were Apple 7.50% preference shares due 2024, Apple Limited 7.75% preference shares, and Express Catering Limited. The overall volume leaders were Future Energy Source Company Limited ordinary shares with over 40 million units, Trans Jamaican Highway Limited with over 2 million units, and Edifocal Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks in Trinidad and Tobago, the mutual fund market did not record any activity. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, First Caribbean International Bank was the sole security trading over 4,000 shares. In regional business, the African Export-Import Bank will provide a $500 million loan to support Guyana's infrastructure drive. The bank's president and chairman of the board of directors, Benedict Orama, announced on Monday.
For Guyana here, we've agreed to conclude a $500 million transaction to support accelerated infrastructure development projects of the Guyanese government. AFEZIMA subsidiary, the Fund for Export Development in Africa, will enter into a framework agreement with Access Bank Nigeria to jointly invest in the financial services sector here in Guyana and across the Caribbean. We also expect to sign a document evidencing the arrangements we've reached with the government of Guyana for the $500 million infrastructure investment bridge financing facility.
In international business, Wall Street ended higher, kicking off what promises to be a hectic week that includes a heavy earning docket, economic data, and the Federal Reserve's two-day monetary policy meeting.
The Dow climbed almost 1.6%, the S&P 500 added 1.2%, and the Nasdaq gained nearly the same. Mega-cap stocks performed particularly well, with Microsoft and Amazon outperforming the overall market. The moves come after last week's big tech sell-off, which Ross Mayfield, investment strategy analyst at Baird Wealth Management, says created a, quote, air of negativity around what has actually been a strong earnings season.
But overall, beat rates are strong. Even the big tech names came in pretty strong. There was just such a high bar to clear, and valuations were so elevated that I think they're giving a little bit back. But about halfway through an earnings season, you have a beat rate that's high and you're beating by more than average. So you can't really ask for much more against a backdrop of higher interest rates, geopolitical turmoil, sticky inflation, all of the macro headwinds we've been talking about. And yet companies continue to do their thing. So pretty heartened by that. Even if we're not off to the races, it's still putting a nice floor under equities.
McDonald's shares gained more than 1.5% after reporting better than expected quarterly results, driven by demand for its more affordable food as consumers contend with still sticky inflation. Shares of Western Digital jumped more than 7% after the company disclosed plans to separate itself into two independent public companies. And chipmaker onsemi's shares tumbled nearly 22% after it forecast weak fourth-quarter revenue on slowing demand for electric vehicles. On Tuesday, the U.S. Federal Reserve's Open Market Committee begins a two-day monetary policy meeting, which is expected to culminate in a decision to leave interest rates unchanged. And key economic data on tap this week includes the Labor Department's employment report for October, due on Friday.
In market data for oil prices edged up on Tuesday, helped by a drop in Eurozone inflation, but were pinned below $90 a barrel on weak Chinese economic data and as the conflict in the Middle East remained contained. Brent crude futures were 85 cents higher at $88.30, and West Texas Intermediate crude rose 61 cents to $82.92 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, Barbados is being proposed as a logistical hub to help meet the demand for food from some African and Gulf state countries. That's the view of Prime Minister Mia Mottley as she addressed the Afri-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum 2023 opening session in Guyana on Monday.
And that is why, working with my brother, President Ali, with the Barbados-Guyana relationship in agriculture, we have been making our way towards the establishment of Barbados as an agro-processing and hopefully with our brothers from Egypt, a fish processing hub to ensure that we can make those initial steps to be able to ensure that all of the production of the Caribbean can in fact now be made available to the people of Africa in circumstances where many of the countries in Africa are facing the same climatic crisis issues that we are. For means that most of our companies are in need of some kind of arrangement and support, and we believe that governments working in conjunction with entities like the Africa Exim Bank can help make that difference, even if it means that we have to have a conversation as to how best the government plays its role and the private sector financing and the institutional financing can come to the table. If we don't do it, our region will not be competitive in tourism, and it is a world where everybody now understands that they have to go and fish to eat or reap the plants to eat. But nobody is owing us anything or giving us anything. And it therefore means that the tourism sector in particular, in which we are globally competitive, cannot take anything for granted.
In the Bahamas, former Prime Minister Hubert Min says he is gravely concerned about the Davis administration's pledge to send security forces to what he calls a near war zone on Haiti without a clear plan.
During his contribution to the debate, thanking the Governor General for the speech from the throne, Dr. Min criticized the idea of risking lives without an apparent plan or structure.
The New Day administration has pledged to send 150 of our security forces to Haiti. Kenya has pledged to lead a multinational force. And many are deeply concerned about this open-ended commitment. There's widespread violence in Haiti. The gangs are well armed. They control large parts of Port-au-Prince and significant other parts of the country. The UN Security Council has authorized an international security mission in Haiti. However, much of the work of this force is undefined.
The former Prime Minister went on to say he's disturbed by the lack of clarity on how the command of Bahamian forces would operate in an international police force.
I have grave concerns about this Prime Minister sending our men and our women to a conflict zone without a plan. This is totally unacceptable. The men and women of our defense and police force have mothers, they have fathers, brothers, sisters, and daughters. Each of their lives is special. Their lives, Mr. Deputy, should not be risked on a deployment to a conflict zone with no plan and structure.
At the second Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum underway in Guyana, CARICOM leaders expressed optimism regarding the event's growth and potential, emphasizing the rich possibilities in strengthening ties between Africa and the Caribbean. The regional body detailed the prospective benefits of such collaboration. For a comprehensive overview of these discussions, Renata Burnett has the details.
With its market in the Continental Free Trade Arrangement set to reach $6.7 trillion by 2030, Africa represents tremendous potential. The continent is experiencing a rapid growth.
That was CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Carla Barnett speaking of the second Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum, ACTIV, held on Monday at the Marriott Hotel, Georgetown. A study by the International Trade Center on Expanding African-Caribbean Trade was launched in 2022 at the first ACTIV held in Barbados, found considerable trade potential between Africa and the Caribbean, Barnett noted.
Most, CARICOM member states have signed partnership agreements with Afreximbank to operationalize cooperation towards strengthened bilateral trade and investment links, including by promoting and financing trade between our regions.
Prime Minister Barbados Mia Mottley, who was a part of the forum's inauguration in Bridgetown last year, said the speed in which the forum has grown is a testament to the commitment shown by both African and Caribbean countries.
The ability for our private sectors to begin to know one another is the next most critical step. We don't trade as governments. We facilitate, we regulate. But our ability to have people get to know each other and to come together in partnership, either in joint venture companies, or alternatively in trading through goods and services is what we need to be able to expand our economy.
Meanwhile, Honorable Philip Pierre, Prime Minister of St. Lucia, believes that the theme for this year's forum, creating a shared prosperous future, is timely, as his country is vested in building on the progress achieved at Active 2022, setting a clear agenda for the future.
In the past year, we have made some strides in deepening our engagement with the African continent. The African Export Bank has played a pivotal role in facilitating trade and investment flows between Africa and the Caribbean, offering the financial instruments and support needed to bring our business communities together.
The forum is scheduled to conclude on October 31st. Renata Burnett reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
In international news, a deadline for undocumented migrants to leave Pakistan is due to expire by the end of Tuesday. The government announced a major crackdown on illegal migrants earlier this year. But many believes it's mostly directed at the 1.7 million Afghans living in the country illegally. More from Al Jazeera.
A deadline for undocumented migrants to leave Pakistan is due to expire by the end of Tuesday. The government announced a major crackdown on illegal migrants earlier this year, but many believe it's mostly directed at the 1.7 million Afghans living in the country illegally. Let's cross to the Torkham crossing. Kamal Haider is standing by for us there near the Afghanistan border. Kamal, what more do you know about this?
Well, just to give you an idea, in the last 24 hours, there's a movement, a massive movement of undocumented Afghans across the Torkham border. 80,000 people crossed yesterday. Another 80,000 to 100,000 are crossing today. The same number for the border in Chaman. Now, if I show you what it looks like in the Khyber Pass, just less than a kilometer from the Torkham border, you can see rows and rows of trucks that are now moving. They're on their final leg of the journey. Of course, that means that there is going to be hundreds of more trucks moving. The deadline is due to expire within the next few hours. People have been moving with their entire families on the top of these trailer trucks with their household belongings. These are mostly poor people. And although we are told that the Afghan Taliban have been welcoming them across the border, they haven't made adequate arrangements for these people to house them. Now, as you can see, these people are moving with firewood, with their basic furniture, their clothing, their children. Many of them have actually contributed money so they can pay for the fare. Now, after the deadline expires, undocumented foreign nationals, and particularly Afghans, because there are 1.7 million Afghans in Pakistan who are undocumented. These people, of course, will then be moved into detention centers for those who do not take advantage of the government's offer that they should leave by tonight. Then they will be moved into detention center from where they will be deported. Those detention centers have been set up across the country, with a majority of those detention centers being in Balochistan and the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province bordering Pakistan and Afghanistan. As you can see, this is the final leg of the movement for these people. They're the lucky ones. There are far more trucks on the other side who are still winding through the Khyber Pass, trying to reach the border so they can go home. These are people who have lived all their life here. They were born here. They've buried their elders in this country. And of course, it is an emotional scene. Many of them are uncertain as to whether they will be able to resettle in Afghanistan in the near future. And of course, most of them do not have the kind of resources to do that.
In sports, Waterhouse picked up their first win of the 2023-2024 Ray and Nephew Jamaica Premier League season after a comfortable 3-0 win over Montego Bay United at Stadium East last evening. Waterhouse walked away with 3 points after losing 3 in their first game to Tivoli Gardens, while Montego Bay United remained winless and goalless after 2 games. The Premier League continues on Sunday. And that's the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thank you so much for watching.